NFL top 10 power ranking going into week 18. The last one of these we'll do for the regular season, and then we'll shift to playoff rankings and all that fun stuff. Before Colin unveils his top 10, how about we look at mine, shall we? So this is last week going into last week's games. This is how they were set up. Some changes, not too much changing at the top. A lot of teams just going one step down. And the new tier, there it is right here, the new ranking. Baltimore 1, San Francisco 2, Buffalo 3, Dallas 4, Cleveland 5, Detroit 6, Miami 7, LA jumps up to 8, and then falling, Kansas City, Philadelphia. So I like this list a lot. I mean, it's kind of crazy when you look at the list, you look at Buffalo at 3. I think across the board, people would put Buffalo in their top 3, certainly top 5. The fact is, right now, they have the third best odds to win the Super Bowl. Las Vegas considers them the third team to win the Super Bowl. So if you were doing a Vegas power ranking, but Buffalo could miss the playoffs. So it's wild how the NFL has gone this year with the parity and just kind of some of the scheduling, and really how some of the teams played in the first half of the season compared to how they play now. I mean, you look at the Rams in the first half of the season weren't very good, and then all of a sudden they caught fire, and now they're one of the best teams, I think. Conversely, you've got the Eagles, who the Eagles started, whatever it was, 8-1, 7-1, 9-1, and then all of a sudden they have just completely fallen off a cliff. And a lot of people, including me, are kind of doubting how good Philadelphia is. So let's go ahead and get into Colin's list, see what he says, see where he agrees and disagrees.
Third hierarchy, top 10 teams according to me. Here we go.
Let's do it.
Herd hierarchy.
Time is now. Let's go.
The top 10 NFL teams according to Colin. Number 10.
Listen, I don't love Miami.
All right. I mean, I could understand this, especially given Tyreek Hill is still in a walking boot. Given, I just don't know how good they are. I think everyone assumes they're good, but their ceiling is not a Super Bowl. That's been the question this whole time, right? The question the whole time is, we all know Miami's good, but stacked up against good teams, they have been bad. I mean, the Ravens game is a great example. They beat Dallas at home. Great game, for sure. You take that away, Miami leaves a lot to be desired when it comes to the top end of the NFL. I think Miami is good. I like Miami. I like what they have going on. They just aren't that team. They aren't that winning team yet. I would say they're kind of like Dallas as in the AFC. Dallas is the team that beats up on bullies. Can they beat good teams? But they aren't even Dallas. They aren't even there yet. They're trying to get to where Dallas is in the NFC. So I don't have a problem with this. A little low for me, but I was kind of low on KC and Philly, but I don't have a problem with this.
But I wouldn't want to play them in the playoffs. I mean, if they beat Buffalo and they get a home game, I mean, Tua didn't play particularly well, but Baltimore embarrassed Detroit, Seattle, the Niners. Baltimore embarrasses a lot of people. Yeah. They're 9-0.
Well, and also, too, I say this all the time, but you can't draw a conclusion off one game. You can't look at the Miami-Baltimore game and say, oh, well, Miami's trash. They lost by 40, whatever. They'll throw them at 17 or 18 on the power rankings. You can't do that. You got to look at the whole season. You got to look at every single thing we've seen, blend it into the recent results, and then come up with your top 10 list. That's how a power ranking should be. It shouldn't be so reactionary. Like Colin just said, yeah, I don't want to play Miami in the playoffs. Does that mean I think they are a Super Bowl team? No. But they're certainly a capable team with a lot of weapons.
When they allow 20 points or fewer, and I do think Bradley Chubb's injury is a real killer for this team because they're going to give up 100%. More points, and that'll mean a pretty quick exit. But we have to acknowledge they're fun to watch. They're very explosive. If Tyreek Hill is healthy and running downfield, they're dangerous. Miami at 10.
Number 9.
I love the Houston Texans. They're the...
Okay. I mean, I don't mind this either. I think Houston is good. Houston, they are probably a playoff team. I like them to beat the Colts this week. C.J. Stroud's been fantastic his rookie year. D'Amico Ryan's probably going to be coach of the year. A good team. Yeah. What the wide receivers have done, Tank Dell and Nico Collins this year. Buy stock in Houston. No doubt about it. I'm interested to see who Colin is going to have out of the top 10 that I have in the top 10. because I'm not sure who I would have dropped to put Houston in. Like, my last two teams are Philly and KC. I don't think I would have Houston over either one of them. And I certainly wouldn't have them above, Detroit or any of the other teams that are lower on my list.
First team with a rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback to make the playoffs since 2012 in the Colts, Chuck Pagano and Andrew Luck. The bottom line here, C.J. Stroud, he's like a veteran. 4 games, no turnovers. Bounce back off the concussion. They've got weapons. Tank Dell, Schultz the tight end, Nico Collins. I don't think they're...
And they can still win the division, I believe. I think if Jacksonville loses, the Texans with a win can win the division, which is wild to think about where they were last year, wild to think about where people thought they would be this year. And I say it all the time, ladies and gentlemen. People say it takes years, it takes rebuilding. You got to do this, this, and this to get a team from bad to good. I always say, no, you don't. All you need is a quarterback and a coach. That's it. Everything else will fall into place. If Davis Mills was the quarterback of Houston, no hate to Davis Mills, do you think we'd be talking about Tank Dell and Nico Collins? No, we wouldn't, because Davis Mills wouldn't be able to get them the ball. It is not any surprise that C.J. Stroud is good and DeMeco Ryans is good and has created a culture and created an identity, and those two things have led Houston to being a playoff contending team. It's that quick. You can look at it across the board. When you get the right coach, the right culture, the right vision, the right idea, and the right quarterback, you can go from being a laughingstock, one of the worst teams in the league, to the playoffs the next year. It happens all the time.
They're a multiple playoff win team, but what a story they are in Houston.
Number 8.
Listen, Kansas City's bad at receiver. Okay. Lead the NFL in drops.
Yeah, they are. And all year long, the question has been, will eventually the receivers get better? They have not. And Travis Kelce is not playing at the level he has to play at to mask those wide receivers. Travis Kelce has to be far and away the best tight end in the NFL if the Chiefs want to win with MVS and Kadarius Toney and some of these wide receivers. I mean, it's just bad. It's just really bad. Bottom line. KC, as long as you have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, anything can happen. But this just is not a great team. It's not a good version of the Chiefs. It's the worst version of the Chiefs, I think. Good defensively, but in today's NFL, that only matters so much. So, yeah, I have them at 9. I'm okay with them at 8.
8 straight division title. They got a puncher's chance, but Super Bowl champions generally don't look like this.
Yeah, true.
where they've got issues all over the field. I think they're going to win playoff games, maybe multiple. But it's been rocky. Travis Kelce's age is apparent. He limps a lot now. The wide receivers they just don't have a one. Rashee Rice is good. He needs another offseason. But Andy Reid, Mahomes, they're a top 8 team, certainly capable of winning.
Kelce kind of reminds me of Gronk at the end, where Gronk just looked beat up. Like he looked kind of sluggish and slow and lumbersome, and he had braces all over him and pads. But when it came time to make the play or make the catch, he could do it. But it just seemed like he was just struggling out there. And that's kind of what Kelce seems like. He does seem a little bit banged up, does seem like age is catching up to him. He is absolutely capable in bursts, but the best of what we've seen may be behind Travis Kelce.
More than one playoff game.
Number 7.
I wouldn't want to play the Cleveland Browns.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Love the Browns. Love what they're doing. Joe Flacco is legit. Is he legit for another team? No. He's legit for this team. Why? Because it fits the scheme. He knows what he's doing. It's the same thing he did in Baltimore. Physically, he's making some absolutely unbelievable throws. I mean, the game, the game against the Jets, some of the throws he was making were as good as any other quarterback in the NFL. His arm is still there. He's got a ton of zip on the ball. He's moving pretty well. This team's legit. I mean, the Browns can win. The Browns can win playoff games. I would not want to play them. If they go to Jacksonville in the first round of the playoffs, I'm going to go ahead and be on the Cleveland Browns. I like what they're doing right now. They're rolling. They don't have sexy names on the roster, but when you're playing like them, you don't need it. The Browns are good. I would buy stock in Cleveland as far as this playoff run. Joe Flacco this is not a flash in the pan type situation. If he caught fire for 2 weeks and then he's going to turn into a pumpkin, I wouldn't bet on that. I think Flacco will be good. I think the Browns will be good. Will they win the Super Bowl? Probably not. Will they be a tough out? Yes.
To make the playoffs, starting 4 different quarterbacks. I'm just here to tell you that defense is physical.
No.
Joe Flacco has nothing to lose. No team will go into the playoffs more carefree on offense. What are they going to lose?
True.
Flacco doesn't care. Flacco's got the bag. Flacco's got the trophy. So they're going to come in loose, nothing to lose.
Here's a question for Browns fans. Let's say you win a couple playoff games, and let's say you go to the AFC title game, and Joe Flacco is playing pretty good. What do you do next year? I don't think you go back to Watson. Flacco, it sounds weird, but he might be the guy. He might be the guy where they say, look, there's nothing else we can do. Flacco's playing really good. We just went to the AFC title game. We're going to let him spin it.
They've been banged up at wide receiver. They get him back. I got Cleveland at 7.
Number 6.
The Rams are not a mystery.
Okay.
Great coach.
Yeah, they're not. The Rams are not a mystery at all. The Rams are a really good coach, a really good quarterback who's playing really well right now, and some unbelievable wide receivers. Oh, and one of the best running backs in the NFL who was completely unheard of 17 weeks ago. The Rams are good. The Rams are not the Super Bowl version of the Rams with Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, like a really tough defense, but they're not that far off because Kyron Williams is doing what Todd Gurley did for him way back when. Cooper Kupp is still Cooper Kupp, and Puka Nacua is the new Cooper Kupp. So the Rams are good, and as long as if Stafford plays really well, this team can beat anybody in the NFC. Rams are good. McVay, what a coach. Unbelievable. I like the Rams a lot.
Great receiving talent. Great quarterback. They're a little like the Washington Huskies. Do you want to play them? With that coach, that quarterback, and those weapons, you want to play them? And one great defensive lineman. Listen, Kyron Williams, the running back, 7 straight games over 100 yards. Puka's the rookie of the year, arguably.
He should be. He's 30 yards off from breaking the record. He's having a better rookie season, yards-wise, than Randy Moss. And Randy Moss had like 17 touchdowns. It is what it is. But this is the best rookie season from a wide receiver we've seen since Randy Moss. Think about how good Jamar Chase was. Think about how good Justin Jefferson was when they entered the league. Puka Nacua is putting together something that we haven't seen. So he probably should be rookie of the year. I mean, C.J. Stroud's been really good, but he was banged up a little bit. Nakua's breaking records. I would give him the rookie of the year if I had a vote.
Great draft. Stafford healthy. Brilliant coach. Again, house money. Nobody thought they'd be here. Like Cleveland in the AFC, they're going to go into this playoff loose. Stafford and McVay already have a trophy. I wouldn't want to play them.
But it goes to show you, too, like the first-round draft pick thing. People always overweight first-round picks. Your first-round picks, they sound important. They sound good because you have the best chance of landing good players. But if you mess up those picks, they turn into nothing. If they were redrafting, Puka Nacua is probably going top 10. Kyron Williams is probably going top 20. They found first-round talent later on in the draft. That's what good teams and good evaluators do. So the Rams are a good example of where it doesn't really matter if you're shopping your first-round picks and you're quote-unquote selling the future. If you can make those late-round picks really good, so don't when you see first-round picks moving around a little bit, don't freak out because the Rams are showing you that you don't always need the first-round pick to get the best player.
Number 5.
The Cowboys. Listen, 8-0 at home, 3-5 on the road. I think they are what they.
Here's the thing with Dallas. I'll tell you this. The thing with Dallas is that they can win good games against good teams. They can win these big games. Like, say what you want about the Detroit game and the controversy and all that stuff, but that's a really good team. That's a really big spot. Dallas previously would have folded there. The Miami game, I know they lost, but they're in that game. They're right there. It's a coin flip. The Philadelphia games, we saw what happened this season with those two. Dallas, that's a big deal for Dallas, and that gives Dallas that experience and those big game reps and the being in those tight games they just weren't used to. So we'll see what happens in the playoffs, but this is the best version of the Dallas Cowboys going into the playoffs that I've seen in a long time. This is probably, I got to really think about this, but this is probably the best version of the Dak Prescott Cowboys. Or at least the team that I'm most confident, the Dallas Cowboys team that I'm most confident in during Dak Prescott's entire tenure going into the playoffs is this team for me. And this might be, I might be more confident in this Dallas team than any of Romo's Dallas teams. And he has some good teams in there too. So I like the Cowboys. Usually I'm one of those people who are, they're saying that Dallas can't win. Dallas, is a paper giant, all that stuff. But I kind of like Dallas going into the playoffs this year.
They are. I don't trust them late in games. That's why I don't think they're a Super Bowl team. I don't necessarily trust them on the road. But Dak does lead the NFL in touchdown passes. I still think they should have gone and at the trading deadline went after Derrick Henry or a better running back. They have no running game. Tony Pollard's. I mean,
Here's the deal with Pollard. Some running backs just can't carry the full load of a season. I mean, it's a lot. I think Pollard has proven he needs another running back. I think if they would have got Derrick Henry and it's Henry and Pollard, Tony Pollard would look a lot like he did last year. But Pollard just is showing that it's a lot to be the number one back like that. So they probably did need to go get a Derrick Henry. If they did have him, this would be a scary, scary offense.
He had 2. He was the third best running back against Detroit. CeeDee Lamb's a remarkable talent.
Yeah, he's insane.
But they feel very dependent on CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, I agree.
Wildly dependent on.
Yeah, if you tell me playoff game number 1, CeeDee Lamb has 55 yards, I would say, okay, they probably lose. Like, CeeDee Lamb is going to have 100 yards a game, 10 catches for this offense to work.
CeeDee Lamb.
Number 4.
Detroit beat Dallas, be honest. I mean, they
So it's going to be Philly. He's going to leave Philly off the list. So that's guts. I like it. I mean, I was wondering who he dropped to get Houston in there, and it's going to be Philadelphia. Detroit's good. I like Detroit. Same thing with the Cowboys thing, like how I talked about the Cowboys beating Detroit but losing to Miami. Like, I don't really care about the result that much. It's the fact that they're in these close games, they're in these tight games, they're getting those reps, those high pressure reps, because in the playoffs, it's going to be like that every game. Every rep is a high pressure rep. And Detroit, a team that's making that jump from good to great, very important they get those reps. I like Detroit a lot. At home, I like Detroit. If Detroit's playing at Ford Field, I think they can beat anybody. If they have to go on the road, if they have to play those kind of games, Jared Goff hasn't been great in the cold, and he hasn't been great on the road. So late in the playoffs, if they're going to Philadelphia or one of these places, like, bad news. It gets cold. It's outside. So I'm a little skeptical as far as Detroit goes winning multiple playoff games, but I do like what Detroit has going on.
They really did. I put Dallas ahead of Miami when they lost. I'm going to put Detroit ahead of Dallas, even though they lost.
I'm fine
They're
with that.
They're 7-0 when they have 140 rushing yards, and with that O-line and those backs, they get there a lot. I think they can score a lot of different ways. I think they can come from behind and win. They can ball control and win.
Yeah, they're very versatile. They're one of the most versatile teams, I would say, in the NFL, because they can just run the ball if they want to. And Dallas really can't do that. They can just throw the football around if they want to Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown. They can beat you with their defense. They can beat you with their pass rush. Detroit's versatile. Dan Campbell's going to have to navigate his emotions a little bit in the playoffs. He can be reckless. He can fake punt you to death. He can kind of, take risks when you probably shouldn't be taking risk for risk's sake sometimes. But it'll be a big playoff for the Lions moving forward. What they learn in these playoffs will be huge.
They've got a pass rush. They have a flawed secondary. Almost everybody in the NFL does.
Yeah,
I like Detroit and their story. Highly, highly, relentlessly aggressive, sometimes to a fault.
Number 3.
I'm not going to move the Bills. They've won 13.
No, the Bills are sweet. I hope they get in the playoffs, because we said it 2 weeks ago. I'm all in on the Bills. I love the Bills. I like what they're doing. Joe Brady's the man. Josh Allen's the man. I hope they get in. It would be a travesty if the Bills don't get in. If they don't get in the playoffs somehow, to me, we're not seeing the true best teams in the NFL. So I hope they make it, and I would like to see what they can do. I want to see what kind of run they can go on. The Bills are good. Y'all know it's the same story for the last month. They're playing really, really well. Josh Allen is back to playing like the high level of Josh Allen. He's running the ball, or he's running more. He's not just relying on the short intermediate throws. Their actual running game is starting to show up. The Bills are good. You do not want to play a playoff game in Buffalo. I'll tell you that. All right, that is a raucous environment, raucous crowd. They deserve a playoff run. They deserve playoff games in Buffalo. I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for the Bills.
15 straight regular season games in December and January, and Josh Allen leads the NFL in touchdowns with 42. I do think the emergence of Cook at running back and the O-line's had their best year in about a half a decade. I do believe this is what a conference championship team looks like. I think they're going to get to the conference championship. I don't know if they're going to win it, but they do.
It's crazy how it's like, I agree. I think they will get to the AFC title game. I think they could get to the Super Bowl. Or they could be out of the playoffs. Like, they could not even be invited to the playoffs. You know, Colin agrees. Colin's like, yeah, this is an AFC title team. Oh, if they make the playoffs going into the last week of the regular season. Like, it's wild the swing that the Buffalo Bills can have.
Not feel as totally reliant on Josh Allen as previous years, and I like what they're doing.
Yeah, agreed.
Number 2.
San Francisco, I don't think anybody's going.
Yep, last two were easy, Frisco and Baltimore. Going into Week 18, neither one of these two teams are going to be playing starters. They're rocking and rolling. Here we go. Two best teams in the NFL, San Francisco in the NFC, Baltimore in the AFC. Not much I have to say here. Both have questions. Both have questions. Brock Purdy's going to try and navigate the playoffs. He got injured last year. Obviously, we're going to see if Brock Purdy can continue the magic into the playoffs. On the other side, Lamar Jackson hasn't been very successful in huge moments, late in playoff games or late in big games. Can Lamar Jackson silence the critics, and can he finally win the big one?
Going to argue. They've won 21 straight regular season games when they score at least 20, and they generally score at least 20. I think they're probably going to rest Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey in the final regular season game. Listen, the final two spots, nobody's going to argue. San Francisco's
agreed.
2 and number 1.
Number 1.
Baltimore has humiliated San Francisco, Miami, Detroit, and Seattle. I don't think there's any question.
It's crazy, too, the stretch Baltimore did it with. Like, to play on Christmas night against San Francisco, in San Francisco, embarrass them, fly back to Baltimore, and then embarrass Miami. Horrible travel spot, horrible spot in general. Baltimore doesn't care. What a team. Man, they are absolutely rolling. They're playing as good as a team has played all year long. They're playing at such a high level. And man, you talk about like couldn't come at a better time, right? The only problem is the last time they did this, Lamar said, and this isn't me speculating, Lamar said he felt like he was rusty whenever they played Tennessee in the playoffs after a long layoff. This is going to be, a big layoff for Lamar. He won't play in this game. They'll have a bye week, then they'll play. So will the rust come back to bite him? I don't know. We'll see. According to Lamar, it was a factor the last time he had to do this. So we'll see if Baltimore approaches that differently. But, in the playoffs, that kind of stuff matters.
Question, Lamar should be the MVP.
Yes, he should.
What do you want me to say? I think he's the soul of the team. I think between Harbaugh's chip on his shoulder, Lamar's chip, the toughness, the grittiness, the relentlessness, the competitiveness. I love this franchise top to bottom. Zay Flowers, I know he's like a 5'9" rookie, and a lot of people are like, is he a first-round pick? Holy moly, is that guy a handful. That guy has transformed that receiving core. Sometimes you forget OBJ's on the field. I mean, Zay...
it's pretty crazy, like John Harbaugh and what Baltimore's done. When you think about winningest franchises and successful franchises, I don't think Baltimore gets mentioned enough. Baltimore is... you're going to hear a lot about the Patriots. You're going to hear a lot about the Packers, teams like that. But Baltimore should be in the same conversation with the top really elite franchises in the NFL. What they have done for the last 20 years, really, really impressive stuff, especially since John Harbaugh has been there. I mean, just, tip of the cap to Baltimore. We'll see what they do in the playoffs. But, so this is the last top 10 of the regular season. Like I said, after next week, we will probably rank the playoff teams. We'll probably shake it up a little bit, just rank the playoff teams and do all that stuff. So, we did it every week. Boom. Thank you very much for joining me in this top 10 power ranking that we do every week. Appreciate your support as always. Let me know in the comments below where I got it right, where I got it wrong. Same for Colin. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video.